Ladies and gentlemen, when I first asked our next speaker if he would essentially get us going this morning with one of the first speeches, he said, will I get as good a reception as I got last time? Well, will he? Yeah. Well, let's welcome him. Ladies and gentlemen, the MP for Rochester and Strood, Mark Reckliffe.
Thank you for inviting me to open the UKIP conference in Margate. Some of you may remember my appearance in Doncaster. At least this time you've been able to advertise me on the programme, even if I may not get quite as much media coverage as we did last time. Some of you did see me on Question Time last night, and we are actually now getting UKIP people on Question Time fairly regularly. It may be a one-off, but last night I think we even managed to get a few UKIP people into the audience. And the BBC are airing a full half hour of discussion with me on Europe on Sunday. Alas, it's on BBC 4 just before midnight. But in a month's time, something will change. Election coverage in the broadcast media is regulated, and for the first time at a general election, UKIP should be a major party. And do you know the top reason Ofcom gave to justify that decision? It was that UKIP had just won elections and elected members of Parliament. What major party status will mean is that we won't have to fight for attention. We won't have to court controversy to get heard. We can choose what we can talk about, and we can reach beyond our base. When people are asked what UKIP stands for, there are two things most people know about us. We want to leave the European Union, and we want to cut immigration. We should talk about those things, but if we want to get beyond 20, 30% of the vote to the 40% or so we'll need to win constituencies, we have to explain why we want those things, challenge some of the misconceptions people have about our party, and talk about other things as well. We don't want to leave the European Union because we're nationalists, but because we're Democrats. It's not just to control our borders we want to leave the European Union, but to boost our economy. And we want free trade with the whole world, particularly its big and emerging economies, and not just to tie ourselves to the one declining continent in the world. And we don't just want to return power from Brussels to Britain, but to devolve power from Westminster and Whitehall back to our local communities. And UKIP's immigration policy isn't just about cutting numbers, it's about treating people fairly. We can't go on with immigration of over 600,000 people a year. Stephen Wolfe tells me that's the size of the city of Liverpool and the city of Aberdeen put together. Even after we subtract the number who left the country in the past year, net immigration is now 300,000 a year, equivalent to a city the size of Hull. So we will bring those numbers down, and sharply, but we also want to improve the balance of immigration. by introducing an Australian points-based system and applying it fairly to Europeans and to non-Europeans. UKIP is the only party which supports a non-discriminatory immigration system. Reaching beyond our base also means showing that we have a broad range of policies. 3 that I've found have real cut-through when I talk about them, whether in Parliament, to the media, or to my constituents, are energy, overseas aid, and planning. On all of these, it is UKIP, and only UKIP, that challenges the cosy consensus of establishment parties. On energy, they all agree that spending on renewable energy and green subsidies should more than quadruple in just 8 years, from 2.3 billion in 2012 to 9.8 billion in 2020. It is only UKIP which promises to end the market rigging and restore a competitive market in energy, one where consumers will enjoy lower bills. Ed Miliband may be able to afford the current energy bills, but many of my constituents can't. On overseas aid, when I spoke out in the House of Commons against enshrining 0.7% of GDP into law, almost every MP in that chamber was against me. But it didn't bother me, because then I knew, in saying we should switch most of that spending to domestic priorities, that I spoke not just for UKIP, but for the vast majority of British people. On planning, UKIP will put local communities in charge. Gone will be not just the regional spatial strategies, beloved of Labour, but also the Conservatives' worship of overpaid consultants who think they are better placed than local people to define their housing need. Instead, with UKIP, local councillors will decide, and they will answer for their decisions at the ballot box. Finally, to reach beyond our base, we will show that UKIP is the party of the NHS. Just recently, we had in Rochester an extraordinary event at the Corn Exchange in Rochester. We had Nigel Farage, we had our health spokesperson, Louise Bors, we had Suzanne Evans, and we had me there as the constituency MP, and we also had Dr. Mark Hanson from Medway Hospital, our candidate in Gillingham and Rainham. And we gave there a broad, detailed approach to what UKIP was going to do about the NHS. And we saw hundreds of people came to that launch. It was extraordinarily smoothly organised, and I was proud to be a member of the party that was putting forward such a clear message about how it's UKIP that is the party of the NHS in our country. UKIP is the party that will empower locally elected health boards, the party that will spend £3 billion more on the NHS, the party that will transform dementia care, and the party that will abolish that tax on illness, hospital car parking charges. I was born into the NHS. My father is a doctor. My mother was a nurse. 3 times the NHS has been a lifeline for our party leader. UKIP is the party of the NHS. Thank you.